So the focus of this video is going to be on the concept of filling in formulas. And often we're going to use the word evaluate, which is kind of hard. Sometimes you see the word solve and you're like, oh, I'm going to do something. Evaluate simply means that there is no equal sign. We're going to be plugging in a piece or a number that they give us so that way we can solve for the unknown. All right, so we're going to go ahead and write and say, many times we are given an expression. And those formulas have letters and variables that represent a number. Okay, so you're going to kind of see a phrasing, a variable, so a letter inside of it, and then they're going to tell me what that letter represents. And it's my job then to plug that information in. All right, so I would encourage you also to have a calculator handy dandy because when we plug these in, we might need to do some math that is a little bit more than mental math. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be plugging in the given number by wrapping it up in parentheses. And we need to remember that parentheses when touching something means to multiply. But we're going to solve it exactly as it's stated. Now, I encourage you to wrap it in parentheses, especially when we're dealing with negatives, because negatives alter how things look. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of examples. All right, so we have this first example, and it says x minus 4. So that's our expression, that's our phrasing. And it's saying, well, solve it where x is negative 2. So it's explicitly telling me that x is negative 2. All right, so we're going to do what we just wrote down. We're going to plug in the given number by wrapping it in parentheses in its place. All right, so it says x is negative 2. So where I see x, I'm going to sub it out, and I'm going to sub negative 2 in. And again, I'm going to wrap it into parentheses so that way I can see what I'm doing. All right, and then I'm going to repeat everything else. So we have negative 2 minus 4. All right, so if I'm not sure about my integer rules, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up my calculator and I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to then type in parenthesis, which is just above my 8, negative 2, end parenthesis, minus 4. So in this case, we are going to get that this means negative 6. Now, many of you could have remembered your integer rules of negative and more negative make negative, and then 2 plus 4 makes 6. Okay? So again, when we plug it in, we're wrapping it up and we're solving. All right, let's try another one. All right, so it says 4x minus 10, where x equals negative 4. So again, it's telling us that x is the number negative 4, and we need to go ahead and plug that in. So we're going to work left to right. So we have 4. So we're going to repeat that again. We have x, and we said x is negative 4. So again, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't want to not wrap it. I don't want this to say 4 minus 4. That is incorrect. This means multiply, and that's in fact what we need to do. All right, and then we're going to say minus 10. And now again, we're going to do the math. I'm going to take my handy dandy calculator. I'm going to clear. So we have 4 parenthesis, negative 4, close parentheses. So I'm typing it in exactly how it reads. Minus 10 equals, and this says negative 26. Okay. Well, we can check that and we can say, well, 4 times negative 4 makes negative 16. And negative 16 minus 10 more does in fact make the negative 26. All right. I'm going to have you go ahead and try this one. This is a little bit harder intentionally. So try it based on what we just did. Let's see if you can get the answer. All right, so let's see what we got. So we should have gotten 14 minus negative 2. All right, is that what you wrote? So we do 14 minus parenthesis negative 2. And I got positive 16. Is that what you got also? You should have learned that minus a negative really means plus because we're adding the opposite. So 14 plus 2 is in fact positive 16. All right, so this is great. This is fun. A lot of times this is really easy. But what we're going to be getting into is actual formulas of different geometric shapes. All right, so we need to practice doing what we just did, but looking at it in our formula way. So it says this process is also done when completing formulas in geometry. So I have 3 formulas for us right now for us to work through. So you're going to see this first formula. All right, and again, pause if you need more time with this. This is area of a rectangle, length times width. Okay, so area of a rectangle equals the length times the width. Now it's telling me that the length is 6, and it's telling me the width is 2. Now this is probably one of the easiest formulas we're working with, but again, the purpose of this video is to ensure that we know how to fill in the formulas and solve. All right, so it doesn't tell me what A is, so I'm going to repeat A. I'm going to repeat my equal sign. It tells me that L is 6, so I'm going to wrap him in parentheses. And it tells me that W is 2, so I'm going to wrap him in parentheses. All right, so again, I'm going to do the math. Hopefully, many of you guys can do this mental math, 6 times 2. If you can't, again, handy dandy calculator, 6 and 2. And your calculator is going to read that for you. So again, I typed it in exactly how I wrote it. Right? And so we get the answer of 12. Right? Let's try a little bit harder of a formula to fill in. This is the formula for area of a triangle. So area of a triangle equals 1/2 base times height. Area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So they're telling me my base is 10 and my height is 3. So again, I'm going to go through this exactly how we just did. Do we know what A is? Nope. So we're going to rewrite A. 1/2 is still 1/2, so we're going to write it exactly as is. They said that B is 10, so I'm going to wrap him in parentheses. And they say H is 3, so I'm going to wrap him in parentheses. So we have 1/2 times 10 times 3. So again, I could do this mentally. Half of 10 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Or again, I can pick up my handy dandy calculator and type this in. 1 ABC 2, because that's how we type in a half. Parenthesis 10, close the parenthesis. Parenthesis 3, close the parenthesis. And in fact, I do get 15. So area equals 15. All right. So I have this super duper duper hard formula for you now. This one's you're going to try on your own, and we're going to see how you do with it. I know it's a little intense. So this says this is the area of how to find the area of a trapezoid. So remember, a trapezoid has the 2 parallel lines and then the toe. All right. And in a trapezoid, we have a height. We have a base 1, and we have a base 2. So what this formula says to find the area, to find the inside, I'm going to take half of the height, and I'm going to multiply that by whatever base 1 plus base 2 is. All right, so I want to see what you guys do. So go ahead and try to find. It's telling me that base 1 is 4, base 2 is 10, and the height is 2. So go ahead and pause or fill in this answer. I'm curious, what are you going to get for this? All right, so let's check out. Let's see how you filled it in first. So again, I still don't know A, so that is what it is. So A equals, I have 1/2 listed in the formula. It tells me that H is 2. So I'm going to say times 2. Now this is going to get kind of weird with all the parentheses. So I'm going to kind of change this outside parenthesis to a big old bracket so I don't lose the parenthesis I'm working with, because a bracket and a parenthesis are the same thing. All right. Base 1, they tell me is 4. And base 2, they tell me is 10. Whoa. Okay, so I'm going to work this by hand, and then we're going to check, can the calculator do all of this first step in one big step? So we're going to see in just a second. So half of 2 is 1, and 4 plus 10 is 14. And 1 times 14, well, that is 14. Let's see if our calculator can get the answer of 14. All right, so I'm going to clear what we did last, and we're going to type it in exactly as it says. So it says 1/2 times 2. So we had parenthesis 2. Ooh, now this gets tricky. All right, so there's no bracket symbol in here. So we're going to try a double parenthesis. So we're going to put a parenthesis for the bracket, and we're going to put another parenthesis for the inside parenthesis. 4 plus 10, close this parenthesis, and then close the bracket. Ooh, that's intense. Let's see if it works. Equals 14. Did you know that this calculator has a superpower? Isn't that awesome? It was able to do order of operations for you, but the key is you have to type it in exactly as you write it. So notice how many different parentheses we had inside of this. We had the parenthesis around the 2, we had the parenthesis representing the parenthesis, and then we also had to wrap up that 4, and we had to wrap up that 10. Whoa. Okay, so hopefully this helped you out a little bit in filling in formulas, because what we're going to be starting is we're going to be starting with volume. All right, and so we need to be able to understand how formulas work, how we can fill them in, and how we can evaluate them.